street-level startups. I'm your host, Katie O'Block, coming to you from the galvanized Platt campus. With such a thriving startup scene in Colorado, there are hundreds of possibilities to keep your eye on. And in this episode, we start with 3 of them. From water conservation to your own personal stylist, and even saving the lives of thousands of people in need. First up, Brandon Carter with Very Productions introduces us to Geospiza, a startup helping first responders everywhere in critical life or death situations.
My company is called Geospiza, and we make the universe of data accessible and available to help first responders in disaster. So I'm an emergency manager by training, and I've been working in the field since Hurricane Katrina, and I had this experience of needing really important information and not being able to get it. Either it was stuck in a spreadsheet or it was in someone's head, and I had to make life or death decisions and couldn't get what I needed, and I got frustrated and finally was like, I'm gonna do something about this. Thanks so much for your time. I super appreciate it, and I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you very much.
What we do is we integrate just a huge constellation of data, and we make it really simple and easy to access and understand. The challenge of information in disasters is one that is long and sort of storied. It's a problem that we've had since the beginning of our profession. And so one of the things that's most frustrating is that there's a push to just do it anyway, to do your best, to just go. It's a profession of people who really are trying super hard. And so there's a culture of try your best, hodgepodge it together. But that experience is super frustrating, especially when you have friends who work in the private sector and they have these amazing tools where they have really deep understanding of their business cases all the time, and they have these gorgeous visuals that show, like, you know, where every asset is. And I'm like, how is it that you have that for GE and we don't have that for New York City emergency management? Like, what is the disparity? And really being frustrated and feeling like we could bridge that gap with technology. And we've built a series of multi-hazard vulnerability models, so whether it's severe weather or a hurricane or a hazmat event, that allow us to understand who's especially vulnerable in our communities and why. And our goal is really to drive evidence-based practice. You know, I've been in the really budget-restricted environment, but we believe that every community, regardless of size, should have access to great data, and they should be able to use that data to improve outcomes. I think the struggles of startup are universal, right? There's not enough funding. You want to grow really fast. You're not really sure of the decisions you make. That's part of it. We have some unique challenges as Geospiza. One of them is that we sell to government, and that is not a well-regarded, well-worn path within technology startups. And so people are like, ooh, sales cycle's so long. Ooh, government, hard. But government is the single largest sort of business enterprise in the United States, and they're responsible to us, and we as citizens fund them. So we should have better technologies and better services within our government. Another challenge is I'm a female founder, and we sort of read the stats about female founders and founders of color and how few there are, and how there's systematic sort of disenfranchisement of those people. I definitely have experienced that. Some pretty gross sexual harassment from funders. Not nice, not great. And then also this idea that I should defer to male technical leaders, that I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know my job. I'm an expert in my field, and I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm not some kid straight out of college. I've been working hard at this, and that's frustrating. As a female founder with kids, it's a rarity. Actually, it's not a rarity. I think most female founders have kids. I think we just don't get to talk about it very often. I think there's an expectation that male founders, of course they have kids, of course they whatever, but female founders, it's not as accepted, which is really interesting. My co-founder is also my life partner. The startup business is a lonely one, and I think that if you have the right relationship and you're of that ilk, it is really powerful because there's a lot of safety and a lot of collaboration, and there's anybody who says you don't take your startup work home is lying. And so you either have a partner who's willing to absorb it all at home, or you have a partner who is your co-founder, and then it's just like, of course, off to the races. We just talk about it all the time. This is what we do. In our case, I think I wouldn't have done this any other way. I can't imagine a co-founder that's not also my life partner. Well, it would be crazy. Denver is a great startup culture. I think there's an idea that comes from Techstars and from the Foundry Group in Boulder, which is give first. And I think this sort of like generous Western culture permeates the startup culture. I think there's always people who are willing to help. It's very, very different than the coasts. People are generous and kind. I think that's sort of the way that Denver is anyway, sort of Western frontier of we'll help each other make it. And it definitely comes through to the startup world.
In the spirit of helping each other through Western ingenuity, some of the most successful startups are right in our backyard.
I'm Chris Klein. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Ratio. Ratio is the manufacturer of a Wi-Fi connected smart irrigation controller, and we've been producing 3 generations of that over the past 5 years, and then making the product available through a homeowner's smartphone. And then a lot of the things that we do in terms of adjusting watering schedules over seasons, doing things like the way that we actually water the lawn, allowing for deep soaking of watering, and a number of other things within the product make it really easy to use, super smart, and saves a lot of water. It was Denver Startup Weekend. It was actually the weekend right before the first Denver Startup Week. It started raining, and that was actually the first time it had rained in a long time in 2012. And as I was getting ready to go to Denver Startup Weekend, I was walking my dog and all the sprinkler systems were going off. It just felt like this was something that I really wanted to solve. And then so at Denver Startup Weekend, I pitched the idea of solving for the problem, not necessarily the solution. And then by the time we got through the end of the weekend, this solution popped out. Going into Denver Startup Weekend is its own experience. That specific one, I had actually just come off of another idea with my same co-founder that we kind of fast failed and realized there wasn't a market opportunity for. And I'd been doing that for a period of years, and I was pretty tired actually. And so when I went to Denver Startup Weekend, I was just going to go and be just a software engineer for one of the teams and help build something that someone else came up with. But then the rain happened, and that story kind of took shape and ended up forming a team based on that. Wasn't really expecting to do that. How do I think for entrepreneurs, especially first-time entrepreneurs, it's really hard to scale what's in your head and what and how you know how to work, the way you know to operate, and then how do you actually make that into a company. I'm really good at building products. I don't know that this is the first time that I've actually tried building a company, and that's a very different experience and something that I, to be honest, wasn't prepared for. And now you kind of learn as you go through the 6 years of it. But that's been the hardest, right? Is going from someone that just knows how to make a product to actually being someone that has to run a company. Founders of startups, until I don't even know what size it is, you don't have the luxury of not participating in being in the details of a lot of different things throughout the company. That's your job. And so for me, it just means that it's a lot of hours and kind of like 2 jobs. When we shipped our first Gen 1, for example, we had a purchase order from Home Depot for 12,000 units. And in order to make the time, we tested 10. And one of them was defective. So it was a gamble that there was a 10% defect rate on the first 12,000 made. It turned out to be 20%. But we solved that problem by going in the store and changing out a lot of the controllers. So we essentially hired a service, and then also ourselves. We took all the boxes to the service center, pulled every controller out of the box, It was bad for a while, but once we knew what the solution was, that was easy. It was figuring out what the solution was, because I didn't know at that point. I just knew that the 20% of these units were bad, and it felt like company ending. But then once you realize that there are ways to solve that problem, it just became more of, then it's just time and effort. I think it just gives you confidence that every problem has a solution. You just gotta have the will and obviously, I don't know, the problem-solving ability to attack it, but every problem has a solution. It just depends on how bad you want to solve it. Well, one, I love the city, and even what has changed in Denver over the 6-7 years that I've been at this type of business has been very cool to see. I mean, 7-8 years ago, everyone was talking about startups and like building a startup, and now there's a lot of companies that have gone through the gauntlet and are actually viable. They're real companies, they're real startups, and it's just been great to see that environment grow here. And then obviously there's a lot of talent coming in from other areas of the country. And then you have you have the mountains to the west too, so that's obviously fantastic. Make sure that whatever you're going after, you have a strong passion for that particular problem you're trying to solve. Because it's most likely, not guaranteed, but it's most likely going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. And it's going to take years and years and years. So just be prepared for that journey. Yeah, I think obviously it feels great to know that we've created a product that has saved 36 billion gallons of water. There's a lot more water to be saved, and truth be told, that's a drop in the bucket when it comes to the overall water problem. But it's been great to contribute to even the 36 billion gallons. Absolutely.
Being that Colorado is a drought-conscious state, Rachio can really make a difference. For the fashion-conscious, Spruce is using technology to give you head-to-toe styling.
My name is Taylor Romero. I am the CEO and co-founder of Spruce Labs, the software company that was founded in the basement of the Spruce Boutique on 44th and Tennyson. Spruce is a head-to-toe boutique, so it's half barber shop, half clothing store. The idea is that you book an appointment with a barber, with a personal shopper. You come in, you have a beer while you're getting your hair cut or getting your beard trimmed. You have someone picking out clothes for you, getting them all ready. A complete full-service shop. Started off my wife deciding she wanted to quit her job and open a boutique. The best way to think about it is a platform geared towards personalizing experiences. And that means when you come in, the first thing that you would do is you would join our Wi-Fi. You'll get a little scratch and win reward, join our loyalty program, and then that integrates with our point of sale, with Facebook, with our booking system. And so from that point forward, every time that you visit, we'll get a little VIP alert that you've arrived. We'll get personalized notes sent to us. And the idea is always making this place feel like home. Over the course of a year or two, tinkering in the basement, started building little bespoke one-off systems. And then actually what ended up happening is other businesses would start to come in and ask if they could use the software too. And I told them, no, they cannot. It is for my wife. Well, you can only say no so many times, and eventually stopped saying no. After a while, enough other businesses started hearing about it, decided they wanted in. We ran some pilots, and then we landed an amazing partnership with Ulta Beauty. And we've been working with them for the past year and a half to take what we've built here and scale it to enterprise. When you're a 1,000 location business, you have to think, how am I gonna make this work for 1,000 locations? You can't go break stuff. So if something took you a minute, now it takes you 1,000 minutes, you start to look and go, well, this isn't gonna work. We have to think of different ways to do the same things. So we're working with them to get really more iterative in a safe place, and then taking what we learn and scaling it big. But the journey is entirely different. Going from a position of total control. We wanted to do something, we did it, to a more collaborative relationship. And it's been a really amazing partnership, but it's been very tough. I would say for the first time, being an entrepreneur is becoming cool. And that's a very unique and new place to be. We're here now painting, putting in mirrors, sweeping, doing everything that we can and doing it ourselves and doing it by tomorrow 10 a.m. when we have to be open. Like, this is entrepreneurship. And different than being a well-funded boutique, there's no financier, there's no backing here. It's got to run to make money to stay open. And that type of constraint forces you to perform. absolutely forces you to perform. I think we went 2.5 months working weekends, coming in early and working evenings. 2.5 months. And we're out of that now. So now I go home and hang out with the family in the evenings, and we're on this side for a little bit. And I enjoy every second I have with my daughter and my wife. There's no such thing as balance. And if you're trying to balance, you're putting things in competition. Let it sway. Always makes for better stories once it's done, because when you're going through it, your back hurts, your feet hurt, your brain hurts, your eyes hurt, everything. The day that I learned the most about running a retailer wasn't the day that we opened. It was the day guests started coming back, because they'd come in and they'd be like, "Hey Tay, what's up?" And I'd be like, "Hey, dude." And it's like, having somebody spend money on something that you've created is humbling. Having people spend money again, you can't even describe it. And I can't even remember your name. You're telling me I can't even, like, the least I could do is remember your name. My memory is an idiot. It's so hard when you get even 10, sometimes 50 people coming in a day to remember who they are. But when you're able to get their details sent right to your smartwatch, it augments your memory in a way that gives you superpowers. There was one guest that we had who actually took me out for a coffee, and he's like, "Hey man, I just want to tell you," he was a recent Duke graduate, and he said, I just moved to Denver, and I want to tell you that Spruce makes me feel more at home than my current home, more welcome than my new job. It is the place that I think of when I think of Denver. And every time I arrive, Zach remembers my name, my trips to France, that I play tennis, that I'm in social media. As he said, every time he came to visit, he would listen to everybody talk who worked here until he memorized everybody's name, because he felt terrible that everyone remembered him and he couldn't remember any of them. And then he read about our platform in the Denver Post, and he was like, at first I was disappointed, man, because I thought I was that special. And then I thought about it and it was like, well, hold on a second. When I'm in class and the teacher's talking about something important, I take notes. Like, you're not using this platform because you don't care. You're using this platform because you do care. And it would not have been possible if my wife hadn't convinced us to sell everything that we own to open a boutique.
Thanks for